Hey everyone, Adam here, So Was Your Podcast. I got another movie review for you today. I've been holding off on reviewing and posting this one just because the movie does not yet have a US release date, which is a shame because it's excellent and you should see it, but I wanted to do it while the movie was still relatively fresh in my mind. It's called When the Screaming Starts. It is doing the festival circuit now, so if you have access to either digital screeners or can actually attend a festival, which would be awesome, make sure you look for this one on your list. I know it played Grimmfest in September, and when I talked to the people who made the movie, that interview is also on the channel, they mentioned that it was getting picked up for more and more, which is a fantastic place to be when your movie is just hitting big like that. From what I've read and what I've been told by the creators, it's being very well received, and I can definitely see why. This was one of the best screeners that I've gotten and one of the best movies I've seen this year. When the Screaming Starts follows Aidan, played by Ed Hartland, who is an aspiring serial killer. I know that sounds ridiculous. This is a comedy. Aidan loves the idea of being a serial killer. He wants to be a serial killer. He immersed himself in the pop culture side of serial killer, which is a weird fascination that I'm glad to see is not just US based, since this is a UK based movie. And Aidan lives with his girlfriend. I'm sorry I'm blanking on her name, and I don't want to get it wrong just by going off of IMDb, but the actress does a phenomenal job, and you get right from the beginning that Aidan's girlfriend is really the creepy one, because Aidan's kind of a likable guy in his own dopey, naive way. So the whole framing of the movie is the mockumentary, I believe would be the term for it. It's like the UK office, the US office, What We Do in the Shadows, that kind of thing, where it's a documentary. There's a film crew following him around. There's a little bit of fourth wall breaking because the idea is that the cameraman's literally there with the characters. So making the documentary is a guy called Norman Graysmith, who also does a good job inserting himself into this insane world. And Norman's playing it pretty straight. In the beginning, I thought Norman was following Aidan just because Aidan was so ridiculous and you knew he didn't have that thing in him to be a serial killer. I was going to say have what it takes, but that makes it sound like it's something to aspire to, where it's really, Aidan doesn't really have anything wrong with him other than he's kind of fascinated by off-kilter things. So Norman is wanting to make this great documentary to a fault, which is part of the story, so I'll just leave it at that. And Aidan is doing everything around becoming a serial killer other than being a serial killer. And one thing that Aidan wants to do is put together a serial killer family, kind of like the Manson family, and there's some jokes on that too. And it's so tempting to repeat the jokes because it's one of those movies that when you watch it with your friends, it's going to come up in your text chains. It's going to come up when you see them. There's some really great bits and great one-liners that will stick with you after watching it, and I don't want to say them here or even hint at them here, because even if you kind of find it funny, it's not going to be as funny as in the context. I have wooden as hell delivery, and then when you watch the movie, it'll be like when you watch a trailer for a movie and every good joke's in the trailer, so you go to see it and you're disappointed. I don't want to do that to When the Screaming Starts. It's too good to ruin. So the comedy is all there. They nail it. They nail the mockumentary style. I was a little bit nervous seeing an indie doing this style. It's been done a lot, and it's been done a lot wrong. I love the show Parks and Recreation along with The Office, and they do the mockumentary film style thing, but it's just kind of there as a gimmick. If you look at the logic of it, of a film crew following around, it's not there at all. It's not supposed to be. That's not the point of a show like Parks and Recreation. It's also not the point of this movie. But the fact that they did it right and they acknowledge it enough and they also don't go overboard, which is something we talk about in the interview I did with the creators and some of the actors, they just find that exact right balance and tone. And that was something that they consciously struggled with, paid attention to, and like I said, they really got it. They really got the comedy. The beats are there. There's enough there. And tonally, it's consistent throughout, because when you do a dark comedy, there's a lot of examples out there of it goes too much to the dark and then too much to the comedy, or too much to the comedy, it doesn't really hit the dark, and it never quite finds the balance. They never really sync up. They're doing one thing to the other, where this one does them both together, and it's excellent. Speaking of the dark, again, I don't want to go too far into it because I do want you to be surprised, but the movie takes turns that I didn't really see coming, but not only, oh, hey, that was a surprise, I didn't expect it to happen plot-wise, but there was things that I thought of while watching the movie, and given what the movie was, I said, there's no way they're going to go there, and they go to a lot of those places. It does take you on a ride, which is fantastic and phenomenal, and I think even me putting that out there isn't much of a spoiler, because when you're watching it, you're still going to be surprising. And when they bring in the family, like, it's comedy writing at its best. There's so many personalities clashing. There's so much weirdness. And it's just this insane scenario. On top of having all the elements of the movie right, the movie's well made. It looks good. It tracks good. The handheld camera aspect never made me dizzy, and I watched it on a really big screen. I wanted to do this one as properly as possible. It's a broken record thing I say a lot. They just kind of... everything came together. I mean, I don't know how else to say it other than that without going into spoiler territory. It was written by Connor Borrow, and Connor, I hope I got your name right, and Ed Hartland, and Connor Borrow also directed it. But there's something in this movie for everybody. I think Amy was the girlfriend, played by Octavia Gilmore, now that I'm looking at her picture on IMDb. Something else with the comedy that I really appreciated is that it has some teeth. Not that it's malicious or it's going after anything in any particular way, but it doesn't shy away from things to make sure they're overly PC or kind of walk this fine line and be careful. I guess when you're making a dark comedy about a wannabe serial killer, you can't really walk on eggshells, but the fact that they don't try makes the comedy that much more genuine and the laughs that much more real. I don't remember a lot about the score because it was a documentary. It was kind of downplayed, and I think that's exactly where it should be. The score was present but not jarring, not alarming. It didn't stand out, means that it was done properly. I believe it's one of those things that you don't notice it unless it's done wrong. So just props across the board. Like I said, when the screaming starts, add it to whatever must-watch list you keep in your phone or something. It's gonna come around eventually. There's no way it's not. It's just gonna be this snowball effect. And because it's a smaller movie out of the UK, maybe over here in the US, the snowball effect will happen a little slower. But it's getting into some big festivals. It's playing really well. I feel like I'm a broken record at this point, so I'm gonna leave it there. When the screaming starts, available, I don't know when, but it's one to keep on your radar. If you're curious for a little bit more information, check out the interview. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We got a lot more new movie coverage, reviews, unboxings, comic reviews, everything like that coming your way. Like and subscribe, you're not going to want to miss out. Speaking of not wanting to miss out, So Is Your Podcast can be found every single week wherever you get your podcasts, on any podcast catcher there is. So Is Your Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. We have some really cool stuff cooking there. SoIsYourPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. On a more personal note, I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic about the high school experience, all the ridiculousness that goes along with it. We write it like a sitcom. We keep it funny. We keep it pretty light. Do hit the drama a bit because you want to care about the characters, and we've been getting excellent feedback. We just wrapped our first crowdfunding campaign. Got to talk to a lot of really cool people. Got some cool support from that. Check it out, socialstudiescomic.com. Chapter 2 is coming in just a few months.